Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this live webinar event hosted by Chambers Wales. The topic: why apprentice is good for business. Well, the labour market's obviously currently very tight. There's pressure on businesses to cover our skills gaps, and this week marks the 15th annual week-long celebration of apprenticeships. So it's totally apt that we have the discussion topic that we have today. I'm your chair. My name is James Ellis. I work as the head of people and organisational development for Celsa UK, where we're very proud to be the world's first steel producer to achieve We Invest in Apprenticeships Gold accreditation. So I'm really looking forward to discussing this topic today with our 4 expert panellists from industry and education. Before we meet them, a couple of little housekeeping things just to let you know. This is a live recorded webinar, so it will be available after the event. So if you miss anything and you want to watch it again, you can catch us on demand. Looking at the attendees list, some of you are directors or managers, owners, consultants, and HR professionals. So if you do need to take that important call, you can come back to us at a later date. And the same goes for those of you working from home. If the Amazon van comes or the doorbell goes, don't worry too much. You can always come back to it at a later date. You're very welcome to send us some questions using the chat function. You can share contact details or make comments. We will try and get through the questions that were asked, but if we don't have the time, then someone will come back to you later on. If you do want to ask the panel a question, you can do that by using the Q&A function. So if you just pop it in the Q&A function, then one of the colleagues at Chambers Wales will let us know your question, and hopefully I can put that to the panel. So let's meet them. The panelists that we have, who should we start with? Alan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Mackey. I'm head of work-based learning at Cardiff Vale College. And Cardiff Vale College is one of 10 organisations across North and South Wales that deliver apprenticeships with a contract from Welsh Government. The overall contractual value of apprenticeships in Wales is just short of £130 million per annum.
Thank you, Alan. We have Nicola.
Thanks, James. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicola Thornton-Scott, the Assistant Principal Skills at NPTC Group of Colleges. NPTC Group of Colleges is one of the largest apprenticeship contracts in Wales, and I'm responsible for leading this provision, which I do through our work-based learning partnership called Skills Academy Wales.
Thanks, Nicola. David, let's go to you.
Hi, my name's David Elsmere. I'm Partnership Manager for Serco. We're currently delivering the Restart scheme for DWP in Wales, helping long-term unemployed adults back into work. I have more than 3 decades of experience working with apprenticeships and vocational training, probably most relevantly working with developing and running large-scale apprenticeship programs for construction firms UK-wide, for the likes of Alpha BT and CISC and Kia, for example.
Lovely, thank you, David. And lastly, Bridget.
Morning, James. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bridget Mosley. I head up the apprenticeship provision at the University of Wales, Trinity St David. I also work very closely with our strategic partner, the University of South Wales, and the team there. We've been delivering degree apprenticeships in South West Wales for the last 4 years. Very excited to have the opportunity to move the apprenticeship agenda forward into the level 6 arena when degree apprenticeships were introduced by Welsh Government, say 4 years ago. Lovely.
So that's your panel. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for your time today. Let's get straight into some questions, I suppose. Many businesses are currently, I think, struggling, as I said, with recruiting skilled workers. Hiring an apprentice, we're told, is a productive and effective way of growing talent within your business. It could be the solution for many employers and for some of the people that are joining us on the event. So why not start from the very basics? And I think this question, I'll ask of Nicola. What are apprenticeships?
Thanks, James. That's a really good question. It's really important that employers have a good understanding of what an apprenticeship is and how engaged.
Oh,
you're muted.
In this program, fantastic opportunity to recruit new staff. Sorry, am I muted?
No, you were for a second.
Oh, okay, sorry. Where did you hear me up to?
should we just start? Take it from the top.
Okay, all right, okay.
What are apprenticeships?
Okay, so it's really important that employers have a good understanding of what an apprenticeship is and how engaging in this program provides an absolutely fantastic opportunity to recruit new staff and have them trained, or even give existing staff the chance to train and receive accreditation for their existing skills and competencies. Apprenticeship frameworks in Wales provide a good way of employing individuals aged 16 and over. Through their programme, they gain the necessary occupational knowledge, skills and experience that make them very competent employees that also support the company in maximising their productivity. The apprenticeship programme supports apprentices' literacy and numeracy and digital skills, and this will continue to enhance their ability to perform well within the workplace. During the apprenticeship, most of the training is on the job at an employer's premises, often working with a mentor to learn job-specific skills in the workplace. Off-the-job training is provided by a training provider and may be delivered through day release, online learning, or a blend of different methods. Apprenticeships can be found in most sectors and at various levels, from foundation at level 2 up to degree level. And the time frame of an apprenticeship depends very much on the occupational area or indeed the level. Apprenticeship frameworks don't stand still. They are continually being revised and developed to meet employer demand and any new emerging technological changes. At this moment in time, apprenticeships are very high on the Welsh Government's agenda as a programme to address recruitment and skills issues. And the good news is that they are fully funded in Wales, delivered, I think, picking up on what Alan said, they're delivered through a provision offered by 10 commission contract holders. And recruiting new talent is crucial if employers want to secure a skilled and competent workforce to address their current and future skills. So there's never been a better time to engage in the apprenticeship programme.
So thank you, Nicola. So MVQ level 2, up to what? MVQ level 6?
From our work-based learning contracts, they go up to level 5, and then the higher apprenticeships then and degree apprenticeships from 6 and 7 onwards. But the level 7s are not in every sector area at this moment in time. They're under evaluation, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit later on. Okay, good, thank you. But I suppose the question we're all here to be answered is what are the benefits to my business? Would like to answer that, Alan?
Yeah, I'll give that a go. So from a business perspective, you can take on an apprentice over the age of 16. They have to be over 16. There is no upper limit to how old an apprentice can be, but Welsh Government, who obviously paying for the apprenticeship delivery in Wales, their focus and priority area is for 16 to 24-year-olds. So it's young people coming into the world of work, and starting that career path through an apprenticeship is very much what Welsh Government are targeting the funding towards. And it's a great opportunity because the phrase of learn while you earn is very much paramount here. And the training that Nicola has already touched upon that is given to the apprentices is very much focused and targeted to what they need to understand and develop to move on through their apprenticeship, whether they've started at level 2 or level 3, and then progress within their own organisation. So it's a real opportunity for employers as well to look at people coming in. It gives them an opportunity to get them the correct training that they need. A wide variety of roles are available. You probably sort of, when you think of apprenticeships, maybe think of the more traditional routes of apprenticeships from old, but you can now do apprenticeships in a wide variety of things, which include IT, business admin, finance, customer service, as well as the more sort of traditional ones of construction, plumbing, motor vehicle. But there's also health and social care and childcare, to name just a few of the types of apprenticeships that can be undertaken. So it's virtually, any field that you're working in, there's probably an apprenticeship that is aligned in some way with your business. And the individuals who come on, they have to be employed status, so they have to be employed by the company. So there's a commitment from the company. There is currently a financial inducement, a bonus scheme for employers taking on apprenticeships. That's due to end at the end of February, but Welsh Government are considering extending that further. And I suppose from the individual perspective, you get training up to a very high level. You get training that's targeted specifically for the job that you're doing. And by going through the apprenticeship route, many individuals, can progress on within organisations and be parallel with where graduates have started as well within the organisations. And of course, they don't have the student debt to pay back that the many graduates these days, well, not many, all graduates, I guess, have to pay back. So it is very much a consideration that organisations, I certainly, and I'm bound to say this, aren't I, should be considering. And I suppose I'd leave it with the sort of message. If you have a vacancy to fill within your organisation, why not consider that vacancy as an apprenticeship? So there's lots, I think, of opportunities for many roles within organisations to be filled, not just with if someone leaves, let's find a replacement, but those replacements quite often can and maybe should be considered as apprenticeships.
Does anyone else want to add anything to Alan's comments?
Well, just, yes, if I may, James, just to sort of build on a little bit, sort of looking at the way that young people, individuals can progress through an apprenticeship programme through all of the levels. You're creating a real strong pool of talent within your organisation, of people who are committed to your organisation. You've sponsored them, you've supported them through training and development in the way that you want them to grow from whatever age it was and wherever they access the provision. But it really helps to build that foundation within your own organisations of a group of skilled, talented, committed individuals, particularly for you.
David?
Yeah, I'd pick up on that. I think particularly for a smaller organisation, it's a chance to grow your own. You're involved in the development of that individual, so you can grow your own hopefully loyal employee. I think from an industry perspective, and I worked a lot in the construction sector, having a pool of talent across the industry that has recognised qualifications, the apprenticeship, everybody in the industry knows what they're capable of doing. It's a benchmark. So your training for stock in the industry might not be of interest to you as a particular employee, but for larger organisations, people do move around. So at least there's a benchmarking of what the skills those people do. So if you recruit somebody that has been through an apprenticeship, you know what they're capable of.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. And of course, you said then that you've got that career path, I suppose, that people can follow as well. They know the path that they can follow, and they know the steps to the dance. So, Alan, you mentioned actually some really important things. Obviously, we've all said about growing skills, and Alan, you said that there was bonus incentives. So I think that pricked everyone's ears. But so I suppose many people might be asking the question, where can I get one? Where do I get these? Where do I get an apprentice? Who would like to answer that? Is that Nicola? Is that something that's...
Okay, thanks, James. Recruiting an apprentice, if I'm honest, is quite an easy process, a relatively easy process, I should say. I would strongly recommend that employers engage the support of a training provider up front. The training provider will guide and support employers through the recruitment process. There's a range of options available to employers when promoting and advertising an apprenticeship vacancy. Vacancies can be advertised through a dedicated online platform. This is called the Apprenticeship Vacancy Service, and it's free to employers in Wales. So a really cost-effective recruitment method, provides access to a wider pool of suitable applicants. Another thing to bear in mind is that training providers also receive direct applications from potential apprenticeships, so they can forward on suitable individuals for selection. Some employers like to advertise the vacancies themselves. Placing the vacancy on their company website is also a really good way of attracting interest from job seekers. Some employers like to use online job and recruitment sites, and obviously this also helps to widen the opportunity and widen that reach out to a wider audience. I can't emphasize enough though that training providers are really well placed to support employers with the recruitment and selection process, including things like helping with the development of job descriptions. They can also support with undertaking practical and written tests as part of the employer's shortlisting process. So lots of recruitment selection services that the training provider can provide to any employer. So, you know, there's lots of support available, and it, you know, it's really is a good time to start looking at an apprentice now or for any future vacancies that may be coming up.
So, I mean, that's quite, I have to say, that's quite warming to hear. So as a small business where we might find, I mean, I'm lucky enough to be in quite a large business where I have people who are fully involved and engaged in apprenticeships. But if I was a small business owner then, are you saying that all I have to really bring is the challenge of having a skills gap and my knowledge in my own business?
Absolutely. And you know, most of the training providers in Wales work with many small companies and medium-sized companies. They don't have that HR function within their organisation. So by engaging with a training provider, the staff within that training provider organisation will support that company through that process. And as I said earlier, they'll help with shortlisting, they'll help with placing the advertisements up on the vacancy matching service. So, you know, as I said, I would definitely recommend any employer link up with a training provider and they will give whatever support is needed.
I mean, I'm assuming that's the same for yourself, Alan, and for University of Wales, Trinity St David's, Bridget. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, most definitely. You know, we support and help anybody who's looking to recruit a new apprentice to their organisation. But in addition to recruiting new people, apprenticeships are available to upskill your current workforce. So if you have people who've been working with you for some time and you're looking to develop them and stretch their skills in a slightly different way, or to develop your leaders of the future, apprenticeship programme is really a very, very good way forward for them as well. And again, as Nicola said, speak to the training providers locally, whether that be the Welsh Government contracted providers or the universities. It's whichever programme is most appropriate for you and your organisation and your employees. But that's another way of using the apprenticeship provision, is to upskill your current workforce.
Sorry, I was just the Amazon man. Just apologies for that. Just on cue for you, James. So all I was going to add was, I mentioned earlier that there are 10 prime contract commission contract holders who have direct contracts with Welsh Government. But underneath each of those primes, there is a huge network of training providers who can deliver, you know, the very specialist areas of delivery that many of the organisations who are tapped into this call today would be interested in. So there are a wide network and a lot of experience and expertise out there able to assist businesses.
What sort of time is there a time of the year that we say that, you know, your small business, you've obviously got your gap. We're in what, February now, rattling through 2022. Some might say thank goodness. But we're moving through the year. Is there a good time to sort of come to providers? Is there a good time to inform pupils that you've got career opportunities? How would that normally work?
Well, I think with some of the college-based providers, and 7 out of the 10 are college-based providers. With those, quite often there are the academic year is the quite often the sort of cycle that they work on for taking on a group of apprentices. They'd be coming into college one day a week. They'd be benefiting from all the facilities and the technology that is available and the workshops that are available in the colleges. But that's not to say that we have other intakes, but the bulk of our intake is probably 60–70% of our intake is around about the sort of September time, but we do have other programs that start throughout the year. And there are obviously other providers who are not restricted in the same, in that sort of way, who can take on apprentices and work with apprentices, you know, for any throughout the year.
James, can I come in here, please, a little bit as well, sort of to add from what Alan's just said, is that now it would be a very good time to start thinking about and promoting apprenticeship opportunities. If you're looking to encourage young people coming into your organisation at 16 or 17, they're now coming up to doing their exams, they're thinking about what their options are. So from a recruitment perspective, I think now is a really, really good time to start getting the wheels in motion. I know I'm being contacted quite regularly, well, very regularly now, for young people who are looking to go into a degree apprenticeship option, having left school, having done their A-levels, or leaving college, having done their level 3 qualifications, their vocational qualifications. So I think now, if you're an employer who's looking to recruit, now is a really good time to start.
I've just noticed a very interesting comment come up in the chat as well. It says that, and this is from Teresa. She says that she started to get contacted by employers now with potential learners wanting to do experience during the holidays.
Yeah.
So again, is that a good option for people to encourage the sort of work experience during the holiday breaks, to give people a bit of a taster so that they can then look at the apprenticeships?
Definitely. Most definitely. I think it's a really good idea for several reasons. If you're an employer offering work experience to an individual, you can start to get to know that individual, where they fit into your organisation, or if they fit into your organisation, and from a individual's point of view, to get an understanding of how that organisation works, how that sector works. I'm sure Nicola and Alan will both know of individuals who've come on to a construction programme, for an example, started the programme in September and then discovered in October that working on cold, wet, frosty mornings isn't much fun. So it's a really good idea for people to, yes, get an idea of what the industry is like they're going to be working in.
I would also, James, encourage employers to come forward even the year before, when you've got pupils in year 10. And I know that obviously COVID has impacted schools putting pupils out on work experience to have taster sessions. But I was in a meeting last week with some head teachers from Leith Talbot area, and it seems that the COVID restrictions have been lifted and year 10s will be going out this summer, which is a great opportunity for them to get a feel, as Bridget said, get an understanding that that job is right for them. And what it can do when individuals are with specific employers during the year 10, it could potentially spark something within the company that could create an apprenticeship opportunity for them when they are leaving school then the following year. So that link could be created not just the summer of them leaving in year 11, but it could spark, and the connection could actually be created even a year before that.
David, I don't know if you mind me asking on, but what does the scheme look like with you? When do you sort of go to market, and what does finding and apprenticeships look like at Serco?
Serco run a range of apprenticeship programs across the wide range we do. We don't particularly do any in Restart. We do have apprentices working for some of our supply chain. If I can pick up slightly on the all-age aspect of apprenticeships, we're working with long-term unemployed adults. We're trying to make sure they go into sustainable work, and where we can, we're linking them up with apprenticeship providers when they go into work. to get that extra skill, that sustainability of provision. They're not just staying in low hours, low paid work. So that is a mixture of apprenticeships and vocational training. So it may just be a college course as well, rather than a full apprenticeship. But as far as possible, we want people to gain those skills to grow a career, not just a job. In terms of wider recruitment, and I hear what my colleagues are saying that work for college-based industry, it was always a frustration when I was working in the construction sector that everything was September-based for start. So that can be a frustration from employers, and I think I know a lot of work has gone in other areas about more than one cohort start during a period. But I agree with everything that's been said about the school leavers. Get them interested as early as possible, and understanding that an apprenticeship it is not just a level 2. It can take you up to level 7, as we've been talking about. There's a career pathway involved there that you can dip in and out of as your career grows. So very much it's saying to people, this is not just an old style of apprenticeship as you might have imagined it in the past, or maybe people as long as the tooth as I am. There's a wide range of sectors involved, a wide range of delivery options, and a wide range of options to take you forward in your career.
Thank you, David. I mean, I have to say, it's like you've perfectly set up a question that I actually had for Bridget, because like we've got Alan here and Nicola, and I suppose people might see the link with colleges, but sort of where do universities then, where do they come in for the engagement with apprenticeship programs, Bridget?
Well, we were asked by Welsh Government about 6 years ago to consider whether degree apprenticeships would be an option for our organisations, and at that we were already working with companies on an individual level, on an individual basis, particularly for short programmes, etc. But it gave us the opportunity to really discuss with our employer networks how they wanted to look at progression for their current apprentices, and how we could work and develop our provision to really help individuals grow within their organisations from that at a degree level. So we're funded through the Welsh Government provision to look at the digital degree apprenticeship programmes and for engineering and advanced manufacturing. And there are a wide range of pathways offered by all of the universities in Wales in each of those two frameworks. So we worked very closely, as I say, with the employers within our networks at that time to develop apprenticeship provision that would support what they were looking for their current workforce and their workforces of the future. So now for us and for the University of South Wales, we will have a team of industry-based individuals who work with companies, look at skills gaps, look at the provision, look at the programs, identify individuals within their organisations who would benefit from apprenticeship and further skills development, or work with them for, as we've talked about earlier on, recruiting individuals into those apprenticeship pathways. And then the programs are based around a full 360 credit degree program. But if somebody is progressing within an organisation and has already studied an HNC or an HND within that pathway, they would be able to step into a degree apprenticeship at an advanced level. We also look at experiential learning. So if you've got somebody working in an organisation within the digital industry, for example, and they've been working in a company for 20 years, they'll have considerable experience that may well be mapped into the degree apprenticeship pathway. But if they want to focus on a higher level skill that isn't within their current skill remit, then they can use that experiential learning again to get them advanced standing into the degree apprenticeship programme. So as we say, we have a team. The programme works in exactly the same way as the lower level apprenticeship provision. There's a blend of theory-based delivery, which has been developed, as say, with the employer network, and work-based skills development, and the two are linked together through the assessment on the degree programme right the way through, and the individual will graduate with a degree at the end of the programme.
Bridget, I mean, you touched on an interesting topic there, which is, you know, very much it's one of the things for Welsh Government. David, you've got experience though across the various nations, don't you? So, I mean, is it the same across, for those of us, obviously, of those attendees who've got a responsibility for apprenticeships, potentially in Wales or England or Scotland, Ireland? Is it different across the nations?
The apprenticeship frameworks are slightly different across the 4 nations in England, and it can be a challenge if you work for a larger organisation trying to make them look the same. A lot of work has been done around that, to be fair, and most of the issues can be ironed out, although if I stick up for Wales, I think Wales has done the right thing around their apprenticeship frameworks and are concentrating much more on the quality and the breadth of the learning in there, rather than, if being a bit controversial, England has gone for volume. So I think, although it can be frustrating trying to knit them together, Wales are doing the right thing. To slightly criticise Wales, I think they've been a bit slow off the mark on the degree apprenticeships and the breadth available in there. I worked on a degree apprenticeship programme for Kia, which they deliberately wanted for their site managers to move forward. So again, it was picking up the level 2 apprentices. What can we do with them later on in their career? And that was 10 or so years ago. So it can be difficult. There's rights and wrongs on both sides, but it can be done with the right training provider. You can knit things together to make it work and make sure a learner in Milton Keynes has the same experience as the learner in Cardiff.
So it's something you've both mentioned, and it's an interesting question. And again, I've just seen come up in the questions and answers. Level 7. We've talked about level 7 a few times. Aren't degree apprenticeships level 6? There's no funding for level 7, which puts Wales at a disadvantage to positions in England.
Yeah, David, do you want to follow that through, or shall I?
I think it's probably better for you. I'm slightly out of touch as to where we are with the funding on those. But
okay,
yeah.
Okay. So Welsh Government funded a pilot for degree apprenticeship provision, which started in 2018. And that pilot programme was to look at the digital degree apprenticeship and the engineering advanced manufacturing that I've just mentioned at level 6. The pilot originally was for 3 years, but it has been extended with what happened with COVID and everything else. It sort of has stalled the development, but we are working very closely with the Higher Education Funding Council and Welsh Government to expand the opportunities at degree apprenticeship level, which would include the level 7 provision. It's something that we're working very hard to see happen, to get that parity of esteem across the border. It does concern me that we have individuals who are coming to the point where they're graduating from their degree apprenticeship, they're looking for the next steps, they're looking for the next level, and I would hate for us to lose them from Wales, from the organisations that they've worked with, because they're looking for that next level of learning. I think we do need to pick up the pace to get the level 7 degree apprenticeships this side of the border, most definitely. Yeah, but what from a provider's point of view, I would ask you as employers to help us with that, and for any additional apprenticeship provision across the board that you're looking at, without the employer voice and the employer support and the employer backup and lobbying of Welsh Government. As far as Welsh Government are concerned, it's just us as a university saying, well, that's what you need at level 7, but I know that the employers really want that opportunity. So I'd ask for your support to work with your regional skills partnerships and Welsh Government to get that message across.
I mean, I suppose it's a question I have myself, but it ties in very nicely with the question that we've had from Simon Johnson at Tennis Wales. Will the framework of apprenticeship training in Wales catch up to England? Is it really lax in key areas? I don't know who. Nicola, is that something you'd like to?
Yeah, thanks, James. I think NPTC Group of Colleges owns a work-based learning company in England, so I see firsthand the differences that David was talking about there between the English standards and the frameworks, but 100% agree with what David said there, that a skillful training provider can work through and make sure that we try to get as seamless as we possibly can. I think Bridget touched on it, but you know, the Welsh Government are reviewing all Welsh frameworks at the moment to ensure that the content is valid and meet ever-changing employer needs, and of course the Welsh economy, because that's obviously where they're driven their priorities towards. I'm not quite sure if people are aware, but in Wales we have an apprenticeship advisory board, and their remit is to take account of ongoing future skills needs, and they take on board a collection of other employment information to ensure that the right frameworks are commissioned to meet the needs of the Welsh economy. This is a direct, you know, as a result of ever-changing development of frameworks. To give you some idea of two recent ones that we've been involved in our college, we've worked very closely with the Welsh Ambulance Service to develop an apprenticeship framework for their ambulance technicians at level 4, and to meet the demand and the skills gaps within the rail sector, we've just completed an apprenticeship framework for train drivers. So frameworks are continually being developed. I think I said that when I opened up the webinar today. They are continually being developed. Maybe picking up from what Bridget said, perhaps not at the pace that we would want them to, but you know, if Simon is on the call today, I've worked with Ellie Lewis from Tennis Wales previously. We did do an apprenticeship with a collaboration with Tennis Wales. So if Simon would like to get in contact with me, if there's anything I can do to help, then I'm happy to do so if he'd like to email me.
I'm sure he would. He'd love to chat, Nicola. Right? He'd love to chat. I mean, but it is an interesting topic, and I suppose, I mean, Alan, you touched it at the beginning when he talked about the huge list of different apprenticeships that are out there. But you know, if I'm in my business and I'm looking at and the specific thing that I want is not there, what should I do?
Sorry, I lost you then for a second, James.
My apologies. I'll start again. I was saying, right, we were just touching on it. Simon sort of mentioned the fact that he saw a lack of apprenticeship standards in sport, and there may be people who have attended today who are in certain sectors where an apprenticeship is not in the list, or not in the list of different frameworks. What would we do? Do we still contact? Do we give up?
So I can give a couple of examples around that. So if you've got a new type of apprenticeship that you think which isn't currently available, then please still contact us. There are two or three examples, I suppose, of in the past couple of years where there previously wasn't an apprenticeship available for journalism, and we've developed that alongside BBC and HTV. So we're now able to deliver journalism apprenticeships. There wasn't anyone delivering in Wales conveyancing apprenticeships, and we spoke to Welsh Government about getting a level 4 conveyancing qualification apprenticeship framework developed and available, and that was achieved with the working alongside Welsh Government. And more recently, we've just started working in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, with South Wales Fire and Rescue Service, which is a specific, you know, very much industry focused apprenticeship, and we've developed that. So if you have a potential apprenticeship that you think isn't available at the moment but should be, by all means speak to us, and we can try and, you know, look at that, and we need to work with Welsh Government as well to get it agreed. But you know, providing there is a good business reason for doing that, you know, Welsh Government are fairly able to support and assist us in pushing these sort of things through.
So thank you, Alan. It then led me to sort of think about, I mean, I was looking at some of the questions and answers, and Bridget, you probably just nodded yourself here, because I could see you typing an answer. So I'm probably going to ask you the question. We are in interesting times. We've been in a very interesting time since 2020. It's led to sort of a lot of home working and Amazon delivery vans. does that sort of, has anyone got any experience? It was a question from Peter. Has anyone got any experience of combining apprenticeships with remote working?
Yeah, I was going to answer that question in the chat, and then I thought actually it'd be good. It's a good topic for conversation, because I think the last 2 years has taught us all how to manage that process. But yes, Peter, we have got experience of delivering apprenticeships for people who are remote or working remotely. We manage that program in exactly, or those programs in exactly the same way as any other programs. Engagement with those apprentices is really important. The support for them or support for apprentices per se, is actually what helps them get through the program. Support by both you as an employer and us as a provider. So yes, we do have experience of combining apprenticeship with somebody who's remote working.
Just to add to that, James, I think when the first lockdown came along, we were all sort of very quickly pushed off the edge of a cliff in terms of having to adapt to online learning and also online delivery to continue to deliver to our apprentices. And yes, there were quite a number of organisations that ended up furloughing their staff, including apprentices, but we were able to continue to work with many of those apprentices. The engagement rate that we had with apprentices during that period and apprentices who were furloughed was very, was very high, and we were able to continue. There were obviously some things that that weren't able to be completed, where you've got practical type of apprenticeships, which you really do need to come into a workshop to sort of work around a car or engineering or plumbing. There's certain things that there's only so much of those that you can do online, but certainly for some of the other types of apprenticeships, the finance and the accounting and the customer service and the business admin, a large percentage of that could be delivered online. And in fact, now that we're getting back to some form of normality, some parts of those deliveries have continued and remain online, because actually it's sort of, this jump off the cliff. When we jumped, actually some bits of it weren't quite so bad as we were expecting, and actually have resulted in things that make more sense to be delivered online. So hope that gives a bit of a flavour for the answer to the question that was raised.
I think it certainly makes the commute to work from the kitchen to the front room a hell of a lot quicker, and more carbon neutral, unless of course you take the car. There's been another question in. I think this is a question probably to you, David. Obviously the work you've been doing with Serco on the restart scheme, in breaking down those employee barriers and stuff. There was a question here about Kickstart, and whether or not anyone's got any experience of Kickstart individuals, people who've done that, and whether or not they're eligible then to join an apprentice program to continue the development that they've got through the Kickstart program.
I'm not an expert on Kickstart. We weren't involved in delivery, but as I understand it, that was kind of the purpose of them. They've gone through the Kickstart process. Hopefully they get picked up in full-time employment at the end of that, and they would make brilliant apprenticeship candidates, I would assume, because they've already been there for their work placement, gaining that experience. Hope somebody else can confirm my understanding is correct.
Well, go on, Nicola. I can see you probably say the same thing as me, Nicola. So fire away.
We're a gateway organisation for Kickstart, and through the 6-month programme, we have people working with the individuals that are on this 6-month placement, employed in whatever work placement they're in. Our staff will provide advice and guidance to the best progression opportunities that are available, and apprenticeships is one of them. So we try and encourage anybody that would like to continue in that vein. Obviously, there are route ways available, and we'll work with the employer to make that happen as well.
If I was a bit naughty, then I'd ask the question of why shouldn't I? We've talked. There's so many. It seems to be so many benefits of the fact of filling the skills gap, the fact that the support that I could get from from providers to make sure that the scheme is right and that the apprentice is right. But I mean, why shouldn't I do it then? What should hold me back? The answer might be nothing.
The answer to that is you should be doing it, isn't it?
You should be. Yeah.
I would suspect, James, that if you didn't have that thought, then perhaps the organisation that you're working with maybe isn't an apprenticeship provider as well, and perhaps hasn't got that range of options available. Because we are a gateway organisation and we are an apprenticeship provider, we try and have that seamless link so that the opportunities are open and available.
I think one of the things that people might, I mean, apprenticeship is obviously heavily weighted, or people's perception might be that that's heavily weighted towards the business themselves providing the skills by sort of mentoring and coaching via the employees that they already have. Is that something that can be overcome, or is it still the fact that it's down to the employer to make sure that the majority of skills are passed across on the job?
I think apprenticeship provision is a three-way partnership. It's a partnership between the employer, the training provider, and the apprentice themselves. And it's about having an open, clear dialogue right at the beginning of the programme, and an understanding of what you as an employer are seeking to get from the programme, and to make sure that that programme is developed to meet your requirements. If you have the individuals within your organisation who can provide that mentoring, that skills development, fantastic. I would say that as an organisation, you should provide the mentoring support for an individual within your organisation. But the actual skills development, working with your training provider, whatever those skills are, to make sure that we can source those skills for you if you don't have them with somebody who's already in your organisation. But it's that partnership is the absolute key to apprenticeship a successful apprenticeship program.
This, I suppose, is where the role of the assessor, and I guess for smaller organisations in particular, they may not have the correctly qualified people to come in to support their apprentices in terms of the qualifications that they need to achieve. So having an assessor, there are many assessors across all of the training providers who are suitably qualified and have to be also Education Workforce Council registered to be able to undertake their work. So there's a quality standard of what's being delivered by these assessors. And we all have organisations that we work with who have assessors who are able to go into these employers in their particular fields, and the assessors will be qualified in those particular fields as well.
Oh, to the man in the blue shirt. No, thank you very much, both of you. There is another question that we've had, which is, if I did then want to do it, is there a list of service providers and accredited training providers that people could get hold of? Where would they need to go? I think, Nicola, you touched on it earlier, and I think you said that you can log on, I think you said, and there's a list of places you can go.
If you're talking about an employer trying to search for a training provider, if they tapped apprenticeships in Wales, they would go to the Welsh Government website, and there is a list there of all the 10 commission contract holders with their contact details.
Okay.
If you're talking about support with recruitment, then obviously, as I said earlier, get hold of the training provider, speak to the training provider, and they will guide you through the process of recruitment and selection. And sometimes employers don't have skills gaps and vacancies, and they don't actually think that an apprentice would be able to fill that opportunity. So it's about talking to the training provider, having a look at the content of the apprenticeship, and trying to match it to the job role that the employer has to see if an apprenticeship could fulfill that skills gap and skills need the employer has.
It's not always for a vacancy that you have, but it can be for those people that you already have in work who actually want to increase their level of skills. I think that's another really important point that we've started to touch on there, is the fact that it is for improving the skills of the workforce you've got, not always just bringing new people in.
Yeah, indeed.
I think what we're touching on here is quite pertinent, actually, because it sort of takes us back to a step of when should we start to educate in the broadest terms pupils, teachers, parents about apprenticeships, because my experience of my own two children going through school is that we were, you know, summoned to the school to hear about what the opportunities were to go into the sixth form, and then when they were in the sixth form, there was a couple of open evenings to educate parents and pupils as to, you know, what the process was for filling in. I'm not sure if they're still called ACCA forms, but it was ACCA forms at the time to get into university. And at no stage during that process was there ever any mention, and I'm not talking that long ago, of you know, an alternative route that had some sort of parity of esteem with going down the HE, higher education academic degree route. And obviously we now have a route that Bridget's talked about, which is sort of combining both. But that's fairly small in the totality of what is delivered. And there isn't really a parity of esteem that is shared with pupils in the first place, but also parents of pupils. And that really is something that has to be addressed. I think it started to be addressed, you know, having things like Apprenticeship Week is raising the profile, hopefully, and, you know, seminars like this is helping to raise the profile of apprenticeships. But we've been having these for you know, Apprenticeship Week has been going for a number of years now, and there still is that sort of mystique, I suppose, that that, you know, the best route for everyone is to get to university and get their degree, and for some people that isn't the best or most appropriate route, and some people stay on in sixth forms in schools when, again, that's not really the best route for them, and they end up dropping out after the first year of six, and, you know, sort of wasted a year. Whereas had they considered an apprenticeship at the appropriate time, they could have gone straight into that apprenticeship after their GCSEs. So I think there is a need to better educate and to try and ensure a greater parity of esteem between the academic route and the, what is sometimes termed the non-academic route of apprenticeships, and for it not to be perceived as the route that you do if you're not clever enough to go to university, which is sometimes how it is unfortunately perceived. Sorry, got off my soapbox now on that. So there we go.
Alan, I 100% agree. I think there's a lot of work to be done showing people the pathways from apprenticeships to becoming somebody high up in an organisation like James. That's perfectly doable through an apprenticeship programme. I think James, I think the work that Bridget's doing around the degree apprenticeships, showing that it's not just a starter. It is a complete career pathway, that you can dip in and out. There's nothing to stop you doing an apprenticeship and then going to university. Engineering typically did this back in the day. You did your level 2 apprenticeship, 2 or 3 years down the line, you then did your sandwich course at university to get your degree. And I think degree apprenticeship means that's better structured now than it was in the past. So I think there's a lot of work for all of us to kind of almost say, what was my career path to get where I am? And I bet most of us aren't doing jobs we probably thought we were going to be doing when we were 16. I'm certainly not. I've had a weird and wonderful career. But just showing people where apprenticeships and vocational training in the round fits into that. Somebody mentioned experiential learning, and that's very much my learning style. I learned by doing. University wouldn't have worked for me. I wouldn't have engaged. But learning by doing on the job and having a framework around that with what apprenticeships is really the right route for a lot of people.
Thank you, David. I have to say, I mean, thank you for your kind words of people high up in organisations, but there we go. I have to say that, I mean, I've noticed that some of the attendees are HR professionals, and I have to say that my attitude towards apprenticeships changed over the years, over many recent years, and yes, going back maybe before the apprenticeship week started, and going back sort of 15, believe it or not, 20 or even 30 years ago, not 25 years. I might have looked at them differently then as well. And I think it's only through seeing those individuals and sort of believing and seeing the skills that they can bring to the business, that actually, as HR professionals, I think we have some work to do as well in convincing senior managers that actually the CVs that they get in front of them, when they're compared, is actually, you might find that you know, sometimes the piece of paper that you get from university doesn't always give you the practical skills and knowledge that an apprenticeship does. So I have to say, I would support and echo what you'd all think.
James, I'm also doing some work. I'm also doing some work with some organisations through a school liaison programme, because some of these organisations have great career opportunities, and school pupils don't understand what career opportunities are available within these companies. So I'm doing some work with some companies to take them into schools so that they can talk to pupils direct, to explain the you know, opportunities they have, apprenticeships being one of them. So it's actually getting a sort of a school business conversation going on, so that you know, pupils don't think that the only option they have, because there's no jobs available within their local area in Wales, and they go off to university in England, migrate out to Wales, and then most of the time don't necessarily come back to fill the job. So a typical one is a health board. We have a very large health board here, and if you say to people, you know, in year 9 and 10 about jobs in a hospital, they'll just say doctors and nurses. They won't give you all the range of other career opportunities that the health board has. So it's another way of training providers trying to work with companies to try and get the message across of the fantastic career opportunities and jobs that employers in Wales do have.
Thank you, Nicola. We've got a few minutes left, so just a
James,
warning.
sorry,
I wouldn't be doing my job. It's all right, Bridget. I can see you've raised your hand, so don't worry. I'm going to come to you.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
But it's all right. We've got a few minutes. What did you want to add?
Well, I was just literally going to add from what Alan and both Nicola have said, and it's sort of an invitation to employers and the training provider network. We're doing some work within the university with our teacher training programs, so that the teachers that are leaving the university understand what apprenticeship provision is, and the benefits, and how apprenticeship opportunities can help people in schools, so that those influences of the future and influence of school children hopefully will have apprenticeships well embedded in their mindset when they're talking about opportunities for their class in the future. And that's an open invitation to anybody that wants to come and help support that initiative.
So the message I'm hearing really is that if you've got a skills gap, whether it's a current skills gap with employees that you've got, whether it's a future skills gap that you think you're going to have in the future, whether it's a recruitment need, early engagement with providers, doesn't matter what your challenge is. If you're whatever size business you are, go there with the information that you've got about the jobs that you're looking to fill, the skills gaps you're trying to fill, and that they'll be supported and handheld through the process. Is there any closing comments that anyone would like to make? Should I just go around in a circle, or who'd like to go first? Anything you want to add? In that case, I'm going to pick on you. You realise that. So, Nicola, any closing remarks?
No, I think you summed it up quite nicely there, James, really. I think that's been quite a big theme all the way through our discussion this morning, is that employers need to engage with the training provider network and secure the support of the staff within their organisations.
Alan?
Yeah, no, the only thing I'd add, I think we've covered some really good and pertinent points today, is a sort of plea really, and it's down to recruitment. If you have a vacancy or a new position to fill in your organisation, ask yourself the question, why shouldn't that be an apprentice?
Very good. David?
Picking up on that, I think we've got, as we all know, a tight labour market now. There's more vacancies than there are people, and I think business has been used to be able to recruit readily skilled people over the previous years, and that's changing. So maybe businesses should be thinking about a long-term recruitment strategy. How do I keep people coming into my business? And apprenticeships could and should be part of that.
Thanks, David. And Bridget?
Yeah, just literally sort of following on from that, sort of to use the apprenticeship pathways to create that pool of talent on an ongoing basis, to support business growth, business development within organisations, most definitely. Thank you very much for everybody to actually joining us.
Well, look, a massive thank you to you guys, Nicola, David, Alan, and Bridget. It's made my job as being chair extremely straightforward. A big thank you as well to those attending who have put questions in the question and answers. If you could, the guys at James Wells would love your feedback. So if you could fill in the survey monkey that they've put in the group chat, that'd be much appreciated. But other than that, I hope, very much hope that in the hour-long discussion we've answered, or basically told you, there is no reason why you shouldn't consider apprenticeships, and that they are very good for your business. So thanks, guys. Thank you very much.